Good evening, friends. Meeting again with the fifth aphorism, the part of it which we have already discussed in previous session. So, the fifth aphorism starts with the exciting cause in acute disease, and he explains over there the first variety of acute disease, that is individual or indisposition, is generally caused because of the exciting cause, and they are either psychological or physical, chemical or biological. And the basic reason behind the acute diseases is always a fundamental cause, that is the miasm Sora. Sora is in background, so that because of which the latent Sora, which is getting stimulated because of exciting cause, and generally gets developed the acute manifestation. But if the patient's disease is chronic one, at that time, this chronic disease is always caused because of the chronic miasms. And in chronic miasms, you don't have a symptomatology or a characteristic symptomatology with which you can prescribe. So it becomes rather difficult task to reach to the minimum when you deal with the chronic diseases. And then you have your prescription is always dependent upon certain things. It is very difficult for such types of cases to reach to the minimum where the symptoms are vague, and then to find it out the individuality of the individual, it is necessary to find it out a certain characteristics about the patient. And this is what he wants to explain over there. So he explains that this fundamental cause, how to investigate a fundamental cause. He has given 7 important points. The first one, that is ascertainable physical constitution of the patient, that already we have discussed in length in a lecture. Then second one, that is the mode of living and habits, also we have discussed in detail in last lecture, previous one. Then his occupation, that also we have discussed. Then his moral and intellectual character, that also we have discussed in length. So these are important 4 things already we have discussed in earlier 3-4 lectures. Today we have to discuss 5th point, that is his social and domestic relations. Many diseases are caused because of this cause, the social and domestic relations, because there every person is having his own identity, his own ego. When he stays in home, there are many more things used to happen. There are many people in the families. Certain times there are many family members are there, and the relationship of one patient with the other family members, that matters a lot. That is a very important entity one has to look for. So interpersonal relationship between the family members is one of the important reasons behind many of the diseases, because these are the hidden causes or a dynamic causes. There might be a disputes between the parents. There might be a disputes between the patient and one of the parents, either with mother or either with the father, or either with the brother, either with the sister. These are the many more things which can happen in life, and those are responsible in order to develop the disease. So it is very much necessary to understand this interpersonal relationship, and when you have to understand this. What is needed is to understand how many people are there in the house, and you have to ask the question that what is the relationship between them, how is the relation. So whenever I deal with the patient, I used to ask one question: how many people are there in your house, and how is your relation with each of them? Patient tries to explain all those things, and many times you get the answer over there that yes, there are 5 people, there are 6 people, and there is mother, there is a father, there is. And how is your relation? And then they explain that I am having good relations with everyone, but there is one problem, that there is always a dispute between my father and my mother, and that troubled me a lot. Since childhood, I'm watching that thing, and because of which I feel that I should not marry. If this is going to happen in my life also, that I don't want to marry. These are the impacts which happens automatically on the patient's mind, and these are the dynamic influences which affects the vital force of the patient responsible to produce certain disorders. So there is a one rubric. What is that rubric? If the patient is having problem because of the disputes between the father and mother, and patient is suffering from it, the impact is much more. What is the rubric? Anyone, any idea? There is one rubric in your repertory: elements from discords between the parents and family members. That rubric is mentioned over there. So this is one you have to look for. If that might be a reason. If there is one more problem, yes, Sakshi, she has very nicely explained over there that elements from discord, and another which she has mentioned is harmony desire for. Very good rubric, Sakshi. So there is another thing that there is a patient, and patient explained that there is always a problem with my mother. If there is a problem, if you would have read the N. Sheldon's Homoeopathy and Minerals, then you might get, or you might come across between the few remedies. He has very nicely explained the cations and anions, and he tries to explain what is the impact of it. So he has explained, if there is a problem with the mother, you always get their muriaticum group. If there is a problem with the father, there is a carbon group which gets involved. So he has explained over there in short: ammonium carbonicum, my father is shit. That is the theme which he has mentioned. Ammonium muriaticum, my mother is shit. There is a problem with mothers, and all those impacts which we used to follow, or which you used to get over there in cases, if you take a really detailed case. So these are very essential things in your case taking, which you have to ask when patient deals with you. And these are the entities which defines what may be the dynamic causes of the diseases. And sometimes you get right rubric for the case because of it. So interpersonal relationship of the persons who used to stay in the house, that is very, very essential. And those, if there is a problem with the friends, the sulfur group, which matters a lot, those things. But this is not only a one thing on which you define your prescription, but this is one thing with which you can approach. You can confirm, with the help of that you can confirm your prescription. And this is what he wants to explain over there, that his domestic relation plays very, very, very vital role. Sometimes what happens, there are these problems always remains to be there, and because of which the person finds the love outside. They never finds it, they never gets it inside the house, and they are in expectation of that love which they are missing at their home. They always finds it out, and when they start finding it out, they become so lovesick that they get involved outside completely, and they never like the family members. This is also a state which you can get in such types of cases. So these are the things which you have to understand in detail, and because of which Hahnemann says the domestic relations, asking the domestic relations, understanding the domestic relations, their impact on the human being, their impact on the patient, that plays a very vital role in understanding the nature of that human being. So that is one part of it, that is the domestic relations. Then second, he explains over there social relationship. What is social relationship? A human being never remains to be alone. He always requires people around him. And when he goes out, he is at the level of work. So at the level of workplace, there are many members, many peoples are there. There might be a boss, there might be any worker who is working under him, there might be workers who are along with him, and the interpersonal relationship between all those people which used to remain at the level of a work, that also matters. That also defines the role of that human being between them. Some peoples are there who always wants to remain aloof. They never wants to get mixed. They always remains in as an idle person. They never wants to get mixed, and whenever they are even at the work, they are doing their own work. They never interferes with others. Some peoples are there, they always remains in the group. They always wants the group. There are some people who always wants to lead the group. That is the third important thing. So some have that characteristic of being a leader over there in the society. So at the level of society, how a person remains, what is the person's state and stage, that also defines what is the person's behavior or nature of that person. And this is too important to understand, with which you can understand the individuality of that individual. Some people who, whenever they used to stay at the social level, they generally are always submissive. They never want to lead. Whatever the other says, they agree with it. So they are always yes, 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 oh no. They always, whatever the other says, they follow it. That is their, and that is their behavior. So that is nothing but the yielding. They are always in the level of yield. There are some people who used to talk very less in the society, and that's why they never have a big group of friends. There is very small group of friends with them, because they are very taciturn. So every understanding, everything about the understanding about that individual is possible when you ask about his social relation. So social relation is one of the important entity with which you can understand the nature of the human being. Two important things which are responsible to show the individuality of the human being are these two. And these are the two important things which may be responsible to create a disorder or disharmony. And that's why if a person who is working and in the specific company, and he is getting so much dominated by his boss, and he always gets disturbed, but he has to do that work by any means, because if he leaves that, there is no other opportunity for him, and then he has to continue that. So here you can get the personality, that you can get the remedy and individuality. That person is under much domination, at the same time he has to do it without his intention. So undertake things opposed to his intention with elements from domination. Both things are present, and when these two both things are present, you directly get a remedy over there, sepia. So you can understand all those things when you deal with the patients with these approaches. You understand what is the patient's nature, and you can reach to the remedy with the help of that. Certain people who are not submissive, they never tolerate. There is always argument between the boss and him, or there might be an argument between the co-workers. That argument, they always, someone says something, they are always on defense, they want to fight. They are always the first person who used to contradict. So this happens sometimes. So all those things defines you the nature of that individual, and on the basis of which you can get a right rubric for the case. So his social and domestic relations plays a very vital role in order to investigate a fundamental cause. So this is the fifth point which is necessary to be understood while discussing the, or while investigating a fundamental cause. Then he explains about the age, his age, why it is necessary to understand the age. Any idea? Generally, it is common thing that when we learn the regular case taking, the age is asked only for in order to understand the age disorders, to understand the age disorder. For example, yes, Umashi has explained over there, some diseases are common in puberty, some diseases are common in children, some diseases are common in old age. Yes, this is the common thing. Definitely. But whatever the importance is that you have to correlate the patient's age and his behavior. You have to correlate between the nature of the disease and his age. You have to correlate that how the person presents, whether he looks old for his age, whether he looks young for his age. So it is a homeopathic perspective that you have to use. If the patient comes to you with severe osteoarthritis of both the legs, both the knees, and his age is only 35, what it explains or what it means? At the age of 35, both the knees which are degenerated, severe osteoarthritis. So it means that the syphilitic miasm is dominating because it is an early degeneration which is happening over there. This early degeneration defines you directly the miasm. And that's why it is too important to know exactly the age. In one case, when I was treating with that lady, first time she came, I asked the age and I was shocked. She explained she is 25 and she was looking 45 because she was suffering severe rheumatoid arthritis and she was totally swollen because of long continued use of the steroids. So steroids were consumed, anti-inflammatories were consumed, and she was just just become obese, and there was water retention all over body, and she was looking like just more than 40. I was surprised to look after her when she said 25. I said, when you have married? She said, I have not yet married. It was just a opposite picture. So this happens in certain cases, and that's why age plays very vital role. And as you have rightly said, that certain disorders which are very common in certain age groups, it's because of which we can understand the age-related disorders. But when it is contradictory to the age, then it is more important from homeopathic perspective. So when you look towards the age, it is not just to understand the it is not only for the purpose of just understanding the diseases of that age, but you have to understand the correlation between it and the symptoms. So his age plays a very important role when you deal with the patient. So we have discussed two important things. First, the social and domestic relations, and how these social and domestic relation plays a very vital role in order to develop the disease. At the same time, how this um, social and domestic relation is responsible to find it out the individuality of that person. That also we have learned over there. The age and its relation in order to understand the individual, that also we have discussed over there. Sometimes you get, yes, someone have written over there as precautious. So certain people, the certain children who are very precautious, they talks like an elder person, like a carcinosin. You get a rubric precautious. A child is just 7 years, 6 years, but he talks like an elder person, as if he knows everything. That becomes a precautious. Certain times you get very early menses. Nowadays, with the females, it is quite common entity that they gets the when they are at the age of 9 years, 10 years, they start getting the menstruation. It is a precocious puberty. So that also you can get over with the patient. So age is one of the important parameter with which you can approach to investigate a fundamental cause. So this is the sixth point which we have discussed in today's session, and last one is remaining, and it should be asked last. When you used to still remain in India, where the culture is rather different, and we never talk so easily or boldly in the society regarding the sex and sexual function. So unless and until you gain the confidence of the patient, it is not possible to ask regarding the sexual function. But it is too much necessary to ask regarding it for the specific patients. It is not necessary to ask this question to each and every individual. It depends. It should be asked at specific age, and when you find it out, there might be some reason behind that. Then it is too much necessary to ask. Especially after married, in the married persons, you can ask for the social relationship or the sexual relationship or sexual function. In teenagers, if you feel that it might be required, then you can ask regarding it. Many a times, which I have observed in last 31 years of practice, that many times many disorders, the cause of many disorders is hidden at this specific level. And this happens only because the problems are not discussed with anyone because of the shame which happens to be there behind this subject. We have to understand this subject very clearly. First important thing, that it has been taught to us right from the childhood that this is a bad thing, and because of which this fixed idea remains to be there in everyone's mind that sex is bad, and talking about the sex is also bad. And if it is you are developed like that, that the guilt always remains to be there in your mind when you have to detail about it. And if a patient suffering from such a disorder, he never understands to whom he can share. There is always a problem. And that's why it is too much necessary for homeopath to ask regarding it. And when you have to ask about it, the question should not be an indirect one. Question should be a direct one. So if you are asking regarding sexual function, you better ask it in a proper way. The formation of a question is very important in such types of cases, where person should not get disturbed because of it. So your question should be in a proper tone, and question should be formed in a proper way. So generally, whenever I want to ask about it, I used to tell the patient that I want to ask regarding certain private things and which are necessary for understanding your disease. So I want to ask about your relationship. How are your physical relations? Direct question. A direct question always gives you good answer. If you ask indirectly, or if you yourself have a guilt in your mind regarding this, then you cannot put it in right words. And if you cannot put it in right words, you cannot get a right answers from the patient. So it is necessary to have a proper question form. So in Marathi, whenever I talk to the patient, I generally say that वाईट मी जे विचारेल त्याच्यापासून वाईट वाटून घेऊ नका किंवा चुकीचं वाटून घेऊ नका. मला एक प्रश्न विचारायचा तुम्हाला. आणि मग त्यांना मी तुमच्या दोघांचे फिजिकल रिलेशन्स कसे आहेत, एकमेकांबरोबरचे संबंध कसे. इट इज अ डिरेक्ट क्वेश्चन. And then patient suddenly comes out, doctor, I want to discuss that only, but I was not knowing how to start. It is better that you have started, you have asked regarding it. And many a times you get such types of answers in your case taking or in your dealing with the patient. So this is two important aspect, and one always forgets or one never asks because it remains in their mind how to ask. So Hahnemann also says that it is one of the important questions regarding the patient's life one has to ask, but it should be asked at the end of the case taking. And that's why he has explained about the 7 point. Why it is necessary? Because there might be something, the two different miasms which are venereal in origin. So you have, if you want to confirm regarding it, it is necessary to ask about it. It is so much necessary to understand. The patient might have extramarital relationship which is responsible to produce such types of disorders in the patient. For that purpose, it is necessary to ask about it. Sometimes there are some problems related with the sexual function and they never talks it, and because of which they suffers at the mental level as well as other physical problems are because of it. So it is one of the important entity one should not forget to ask. Then your case taking, chronic case taking becomes complete. These are 7 important points one should ask when he has to deal with the chronic case taking. So in order to understand the fundamental VIHMC, it is necessary that ascertainable physical constitution of the person, his moral and intellectual character. Then third one, that is his occupation, the mode of living and the habits, his social and domestic relation as a fifth point. The sixth one is his age, and last one, but not the least, the seventh one, the sexual function of the patient. And all those constitutes the individuality of that individual, the person who is suffering from chronic disease. And then it is possible to understand the nature of that individual, and then it is possible to come to a right medicine with the help of that. So fifth aphorism is a very important aphorism in order to understand the nature of the person while dealing with the chronic case. So what he says over there, his social and domestic relation, his age, sexual function, etc., are to be taken into consideration. So these are the points which you have to take into consideration when you deal with the patients with chronic disease. So see, he has started with mission in first aphorism. Then he defined mission in the second. So third, then he qualities in order to get a to achieve the mission, how homeopathic physician should be. So in the first mission, the physician's high and only mission is to restore the sick to health, to cure, as it is termed. The second one, ideal cure. The highest ideal of cure is rapid, gentle, permanent restoration of the state of health, or removal or annihilation of the disease in its whole extent, in the shortest, most reliable, and most harmless way, on easily comprehensible physical. Then the qualities of physicians, which we have discussed in third aphorism. The first one, knowledge of disease, indication, the knowledge of medicinal powers, the choice of the remedy, the medicine indicated, the proper dose, the repetition of the dose, and then the obstacles in the process of recovery. And in the fourth aphorism, we have discussed one more quality, that he should likewise be the preserver of health if he knows the things that deranges the health. And then we have given ample time to the fifth aphorism, because from this aphorism he starts understanding about the disease. And understanding of the diseases, he deals with the causes of disease. In case of acute disease, the exciting cause, and in case of chronic disease, the fundamental cause, and how to investigate fundamental cause. That we have learned in detail in this aphorism. Tomorrow we have to go with the next one, that is the sixth, and again a very important aphorism, very difficult to develop and achieve in life. That is the sixth aphorism, and he goes in a right way, that how one more quality he defines of the physician to achieve this all those things. So tomorrow we'll have a big session again on the sixth aphorism. In fact, we can finish it or not finish it, not no. But whatever we have discussed, go through it again and you can find it out many things. For the students, exciting cause is a short note, fundamental cause is short note. How to, there is full question also. Mm, what is fundamental cause and how to investigate the fundamental cause, explain according to the sixth edition of Organ of Medicine. 20 marks question is there. So you have to prepare your specific notes regarding it, so that in exam also you can do well and you will have ample marks. And then we'll start with the sixth one in tomorrow's session. Any questions? If there are, we can discuss. We have 5 to 6 minutes in hand. Sir, good evening. Varke sir, good evening.
सर वन क्वेश्चन.
Yes.
सर जेव्हा आपण LM स्केल चालू करतो विथ LM1, तर LM1 जनरली वी गिव्ह फॉर 30 days or 40 days. मग लगेच समजा इफ वी हॅव टू शिफ्ट ऑन टू LM2, then we have to keep some gap of some days, or we can continuously go on from LM1, LM2.
You have to continue it immediately. Don't wait. If you have finished LM1, start with LM2. If state remains to be the same and you feel that remedy is one and same, then you have to continue it immediately with the next potency. And don't keep it in your mind that it should be started with LM1 always. It depends. Where do you want result? Accordingly, you have to think about it. So you might start directly LM11 also in certain cases. Sometimes you might feel that it is LM20 can be started, depending upon the patient's where exactly do you expect the result. But you can go ahead without any gap. No, there should not be in fact any gap.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Anything else?
सर
Hmm?
आपने बताया था कि बोरिक में यूजुअली नीचे सारी इंफॉर्मेशन वो पढ़ी जानी चाहिए जब भी कोई मेडिसिन पढ़े ना। तो मैं कैलकेरिया कार्ब पढ़ रहा था, तो उसमें ये लिखा था कि सल्फर के बाद कैलकेरिया बहुत अच्छा काम करती है। मतलब
हाँ।
वो तो क्या, अगर जैसे मेरी कोई पेशेंट है और वो कंप्लीट उसका रेपिटराइजेशन के बाद वो कैलकेरिया कार्ब पेशेंट है, तो क्या मैं पहले शुरू में उसको सल्फर की कुछ डोजेस दूं और फिर कैलकेरिया कार्ब पे आऊं?
नहीं, ऐसा नहीं है.
अच्छा,
It is a remedy relationship which he has mentioned. There is a cyclical remedy relationship. Cyclical remedy relationship means you can give after sulfur only you can give the calcarea. You cannot give calcarea after lycopodium. There is a cyclical relationship between the calcarea, lyco and sulfur. If you would have given the calcarea, then you cannot go directly for the sulfur. In between, you have to use the lycopodium, and after lycopodium, then you have to shift towards the sulfur. So this is the way you have to go, and it is not the thing that there should be a sulfur should be given and then calcarea should be given. It is not like that. If your patient is calcarea, you start with calcarea. These are three remedies which are called to be a trios of the Sora, and sometimes you require all three. So if you would have started with calcarea, then part of it will be complemented by lycopodium and part of it might be complemented by the sulfur. So sometimes you require all three, but this cycle should be in this direction. After calcarea, lyco, after sulfur, again you can go for calcarea, but you cannot go with the lycopodium. So this cyclical relationship is there between this.
राइट सर। और सर इस साइकिल को रन करने में यूजुअली किस तरह से हम उसको मतलब कैलकेरिया को हम
at least wait for a month. If you are giving calcarea and if you feel patient is calcarea, give calcarea first. After giving calcarea in different potencies, you feel that patient is not yet cured and you feel that part of it is still remaining, then you can think about the next remedy, lycopodium. Then if even though you want the sulfur, then you give a lycopodium few doses after a gap of a day or two and then shift towards the sulfur.
Correct. Clear, sir. Clear. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Anything else? Is there any reason why Boric translated 6th edition of Organon, where Hahnemann asked about further diluted doses? He still dealt with the low potencies throughout Materia Medica. There are different things. Boric and Tafel were there at that time who used to run the pharmacy. Hahnemann have started with the decimal scale first, and he was working with decimal scales. Earlier potencies you will find going to find it out that 2x, 3x, 6x, these potencies were quite common than the centesimal. Herring was the person who started with the centesimal scale thereafter. Whenever you used to prescribe remedies into the decimal scale, they generally contains more material in them. And what the Boric has made over there, his book, as well as he has explained the doses, those were present at that time only. LM was the very, at the end of Hahnemann's life, Hahnemann came out with the LM. A second important thing, it was rather difficult to prepare LM at that time. So LM were not freely available potencies. And that's why in Borix Mathematica, you'll never get LM scale which is mentioned under those. So these things are not mentioned. Whatever was going on about that, Boric has mentioned. Kent was the first person who started dealing with the centesimal scale and highest potencies. So he further potentized. He was not knowing. Earlier he